Is there anything better than talking about books? I'm not sure there is, but something I think comes close is journaling about books. Let's dive into my reading journal and take a look at the books I read in August. I'll let you know what I thought of them, I'll play with some stationery and see if I can represent them on the page. We'll take a look at my August reading stats and set up some spreads for September too, so I'm ready to track my reading through the next month. Hi, I'm Erin, and before we talk about my reading adventures through August, I want to know what your top read from August was. I'm working in my square 9x9" Archer and Olive reading journal here, and this one has started to fall apart recently. I haven't tried to glue it back together yet. Stay tuned to the vlog if you want to see how that goes. In months where I find I read a lot, I usually will update the reading journal in a few separate sessions, but I didn't read that much in August, so we're going to do it all in one go. Starting with my list of books read for the year, this is just a numbered list of books in order that I finish them, and it's starting to look quite impressive. I'm onto the back side of the Dutch door here, and it's feeling like maybe I have read some books this year. The Tom Studio Wren writing pen is my favorite pen of choice at the moment, so I'm using that to update all of my simple handwritten trackers. As always, I'll try to link to all of the stationery that I'm using down in the description, wherever possible. Next up, we're updating my Page Majors spread, which is the spread for my book club that is just for channel members here on YouTube. And this is actually incorrect now, this information is outdated. The book we had chosen is This Monster of Mine by Shalini Abesikara. Big shout out to Kat for suggesting this one. Unfortunately, it's not out on audiobook yet in the US, so we're going to hold off on that and we're reading a different book. It's actually The Mars House by Natasha Pulley for the month of September instead. Big shout out to Leanne for suggesting that one. We will still read This Monster of Mine, we're just going to postpone it until November. If you're keen to get in on the book club action, there is a join link down in the description. You need to be a member of the channel on the Page Majors level to join in. This spread I have completely ignored for most of this year. This is my maybe next, which is what I like to call my to be read, my TBR. I just don't love that term, so I call it maybe next instead. While I haven't been updating the spread necessarily, I have been keeping track of book recommendations in the Notes app on my phone, in particular suggestions from you guys in the comments of my reading journal videos, so thank you so much for those. Please keep them coming. I definitely have more written down somewhere I need to find, but this is just copying them from my Notes app on my phone into the journal. And I got to cross a few off too at the beginning there, some books that I had indeed read from my maybe next, and that's always a good feeling. That's it for now from the yearly trackers. We'll come back to some a little bit later, but let's move into August trackers next. I really like to have across 2 pages, across a full spread here, the book covers for the books that I have engaged with in the month on the left side there, with a star rating underneath, and on the right side a calendar where I just mark the start and end dates of the books that I'm reading. It's really just a fun visual representation and I enjoy doing it. I don't get any greater information out of this, I just think it's really fun. August was the month I finally tried out waterfall tabs in this gigantic square journal, and I loved it so much I'm going to be taking them forward into September as well. The sheer size of these pages meant that I could actually fit all of my tracking information across a single spread in this journal if I really wanted to, but I'm not reading as much as I did last year, so I'm finding that I'm not going through the journal as quickly as I anticipated. There is always cat hair stuck to my stamps. So I figured it's okay to take up some more space, right? Thank you so much to everyone who encouraged me to try the waterfall tabs. It's so much fun in this journal. Can you believe it has taken me until this moment, recording the voiceover for this video, to realize that I missed the letter E in progress on my header there? I made these stickers myself with my Cricut, and that's a very unlike me kind of mistake. I can't believe I did that and didn't notice until now. I must have been pretty out of it. I was quite sick through July when I set this up, so I'm just going to use that as my excuse. Something else that I like to use my Cricut for is to make the stickers for my book covers, like you can see over on the left page there, and I do have a video about how I do this, so if you also have access to a cutting machine, I've got a little tutorial for you. But I like to save them up until it's worth me printing and cutting a few at a time, so I'm not just doing one book cover, hence the sticky note where I'm just writing down what I need, although I didn't realize I already had a few printed that I thought I needed, so that's very handy. That means I can go ahead and stick them down now. While I'm still working on this spread, I wanted to mention I will be hosting a spooky season October reading challenge, and I'm so excited about it. We did one last year and it was so much fun. It's going to be a little bit more involved this year. I've been working on it for months and I'm so excited about it. Anyone can join. You don't have to be someone who reads stacks and stacks of books every month, although if you do read stacks and stacks of books, of course, you are also welcome to join. It will have its own dedicated video where I talk about how it works coming soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I can't wait. I think anyone who is a consistent reader will tell you that you will go through peaks and valleys in your reading habits, and I am kind of I wouldn't say that I'm still in a reading slump, but I don't feel like the month of August was a particularly stellar reading month for me either. So shall we talk about the books I read in August? Let's start with the first one that I finished, which was Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This was very cute. If you're a rom-com reader and you have spent some time in the Audible Originals Free Plus catalogue section of Audible, you've probably come across Cara Bastone's work before. I knew her mostly from her short Audible originals that usually have a full cast. This one is a full-length novel, not a graphic audio, a single narrator, still so much fun. The storyline is an unusual one for me to pick up. I'm not really one for pregnancy storylines in books, especially when they're a surprise pregnancy trope, which I suppose this one could be considered that, but it happens very early on in the book, so it's not like you're just having it sprung on you right at the end. The female protagonist of this book finds herself unexpectedly pregnant following a one-night stand and is very surprised by the differences in support that she's receiving from the people around her. I really think of Cara Bastone as an audiobook author because of the Audible originals, but you can also get this one in ebook and paperback as well. But I can very much vouch for the audiobook version of this story because the narrator is really funny. She makes it feel like you're catching up for coffee with a really dramatic friend that you only see once a year, so you've got lots to catch up on. And that makes it a really easy book to listen to in the audiobook version, and I had a really good time with it. But it hasn't really stayed with me. I don't think that I would revisit this one and read it again. It's not something that I've spent any time thinking about later, and I didn't feel like I had the right stationery to go with this one, so I kind of just used it to fill this space for a very basic review back in my July pages actually, so it's technically before my August setup, but I'm okay with that. I also forgot to put my peach rating sticker down here, so I didn't have anywhere to add my rating, which is unfortunate. I spent a bit of time looking for some spare paper in the journal and couldn't find any, so I'm actually just going to take a page out of my research and development journal, just cut one right out, and I'm going to make a tiny little tip in so I can still have my peach rating system sticker somewhere on this page. If you haven't come across the concept of the peach rating system yet, it's a book rating system that I came up with, very much based on the core pile rating system created by G of Book Roast, but a little bit simplified. I do have a video about how it works and I'll have that linked down in the description in case you're keen to watch it, but essentially the letters of Peach, which is my cat's name, I named it after her, stand for plot, enjoyment, artistry, character, and heart, and you give the book a rating out of 5 across all of those categories, add it up to get a total out of 25, and then divide that number by 5 to find out your star rating out of 5. I made myself these little stickers that I can use to just add to each of my reviews. It makes it really easy to keep the system going. And if you like the look of those stickers, they are available as a free sign-up perk when you join my Substack newsletter, which is also linked in the description. There are so many links down there. I've washi taped my little tip in place, which means it will act like this kind of flap that just opens out to show the information that's on the other side, and that will give me a tiny bit of opportunity to add some decoration to this spread too, which I am not against. I decided I would just grab a sticker out of my reusable sticker book. This is where I typically put things that are left over, and this one's a little teacup with some flowers inside. I thought that would be a nice little match to the cover. I'm giving this book 3.5 for plot. It was fun but nothing too groundbreaking, 4 for enjoyment because I did really enjoy it, 3.5 stars for artistry, the writing was fine but nothing too breakaway special for me, 3.5 for characters as well, and 4 for heart. That gives me a total of 18.5 out of 25, which when you divide 18.5 by 5, you get 3.7, which is close enough to 3 3/4 that's what I'm going to call the rating. I also like to put my decimal point rating as well as the star rating over here on my August Reads page with the book covers, and we're about to get a visit from the very Peaches that the rating system was named after. Here she is. She's very good at interrupting, and she sat on my lap while I journaled for a little while after this. She's very sweet. There is also a matching rating system called Mitsu, which is named after my other cat. I have two. That one is for non-fiction books, so there's information about that in the video explainer as well, in case you want to check it out. The next review page we're setting up here is for Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which was our Page Majors Book Club book pick for the month of August. And I'm getting really into the amorphous blob stickers here. There is a lot of magic that is visible in this book, and sometimes it's red and sometimes it's blue, so I thought this would be a fun way to represent that magic on the page. In the book it actually looks like fire, I think, but we're going with what I've got in my sticker collection. Not a lot of fire in there. This one is a YA fantasy. Would you say it's urban fantasy if it's set in the modern day in a school that really exists and, like, you know, the kids have phones but they also have magic? I don't know. This book balances so many themes. It has underlying very serious conversations about racism and tokenism and sexism. It deals really gracefully, in my opinion, with grief, and it also draws a lot on Welsh folklore and King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, juxtaposed with the folkloric practices of the Black community of North Carolina. It's so interesting. Something to know about me is that I'm not always somebody who can see a twist coming. I don't know if I don't have that kind of pattern recognition or what, but most of the time a book can catch me surprised. I thought I knew where this book was going. I was very wrong. Our protagonist, Bree, is a 16-year-old Black girl who is trying to navigate life without her mother after losing her very suddenly and tragically, and the grief that comes along with that, while also starting a new chapter of her life as a college student on early admissions while she's still kind of in high school age groups. She hasn't even been to a single class yet when she sees something that she is not supposed to see, and a whole new world of secret societies and magic is revealed to her. The timeline of this book is rivaled only by Twilight in that so much happens in a very, very short period of time canonically within the book that if you stop and think about it too hard, you're like, Bree, when did you sleep, honey? I personally found myself really drawn in by this story. It was suggested by our page mage Sims, but I'd also seen it endorsed on Ashley Poston's Instagram stories, and she is an author that I trust implicitly, so I knew going into this that I was in with a pretty good shot of a good time with this book, and I was correct, but I will say that we had very mixed experiences among the page mages. Possibly that's because this is a YA novel, and I know not everybody who is not the YA target audience enjoys a YA novel. I personally love a bit of YA, but we did have several DNFs amongst the page mages, which is totally fair. You do not ever have to read a book that you don't want to read. Among those of us who did finish it though, I think quite a few of us are continuing on with the series, and you will see that is the case for me as well, because I have already finished the second book in this series. It's extremely rare for me to read two books from the same series back to back, but I did that with these ones, so I think you know I enjoyed this story. Towards the end of each month, we jump on Discord and have a little voice, video, text chat call to discuss the book, and the sections in red here are the discussion questions that I posed for this story. When it comes to my reading journal setups for the Page Mages books, I like to use those as the prompts for my review of the book on the page. I just like to have that little record of what we discussed. Although there is a Google sheet that has all of the books that have been selected, who they were chosen by, and the discussion questions, as well as the average rating. So if you are a Page Mage, you can actually access that anytime. It's pinned in the info and announcements channel in the Discord. I've been working it hard, so my Ren pen has just run out of ink. I'm just going to ink it back up again very quickly. I probably definitely should have mentioned this sooner than approximately 13 minutes into the video, but if you don't want spoilers, please don't read what I'm writing on the pages. There are definitely spoilers in there, but I will never give you spoilers in the voiceover because I am not a spoiler-loving person myself. My pen is inked again now, and check out how much darker it looks now just from, I didn't realize that I was running out, and so it really needed that little top up. Let's finish this review and then we can rate the book with my Peach rating system again. There was one little gripe that I had with Legendborn, and that is that so many of the characters had unreasonable nicknames. Like there's a character called Selwyn, everyone calls him Sel, yeah, okay. There's a character called Victoria, everyone calls her Tor, I sort of hated that. Sarah gets called Sair or Sar, like why? Come on, let's not do this. Selwyn is a lovely name, let's just call him Selwyn, shall we? I've given Legendborn at least 4 out of 5 for all of my categories. I gave it 20.5 out of 25, which means it is a 4.1 star rating from me. That's actually going to make it my highest rated read of the month, and if I were keeping a book bracket, it is the book that would go into it. I didn't do one because I was a bit disenfranchised with them after I screwed my own one up last year, and now I'm really wishing that I had. So let me know if you think it would be weird for me to add a book bracket to my reading journal in September. I've gone ahead and made the rest of my stickers for August, and I need to talk about this one briefly. This one is called Rogue Protocol. It's the third book in the Murderbot Diaries series, and unfortunately, I have to give this one a DNF, but it's not the book's fault. I have just recently been watching the Apple TV series of Murderbot, and I really liked it. I watched it with my partner, he really liked it too. I'd read the first 2 books and been kind of on the fence about them, and I was like, let's give the next one a go. But I was not in the headspace for this. I swear I actually got pretty far into this book I made it to 82% of the audiobook, and at that point I just couldn't imagine putting it in my reading journal because I couldn't remember a single detail about it. Like, it just did not stick to my brain. I think that may be in part because I accidentally borrowed the graphic audio version of this one, and I am not a fan of graphic audio. I actually find the noises and the music and everything really distracting, and I think that was part of it. So it's possible at some point in the future I'll return to this book, but we will have to see. It was not the right time at all. Let's talk instead about a book that I did finish and that I do remember details from, and that is the sequel to Legendborn that we talked about just before. This one is called Bloodmarked. It would have been great if I'd had them on facing pages, wouldn't it? So that you had Legendborn on one side and Bloodmarked on the next, but the way the journal played out, it just didn't work out that way chronologically. But I'm making sure it's really obvious that they're both part of a series because I'm bringing back the amorphous blobs. This time they are black and a little bit reddish purple. Some of them have a different color tone to them, even though they're all from the same pack. I mentioned earlier that I don't typically go straight from one book in a series to the next. I'll typically space them out at least a little bit. I'll have 1 or 2 books in between, but I could not with this one. I immediately got back on my library app and I was borrowing, or putting in a reserve actually, for Bloodmarked, which is book 2 in the Legendborn cycle series. And my hold came through really quickly, so I got to just dive straight back in. And I feel like I need to talk about the stationery here more than the book, because I feel like there's not much I can tell you about Bloodmarked that doesn't just completely spoil Legendborn. So if you haven't read Legendborn, I would be ruining that for you. So there's not really a lot that I can tell you. I can tell you that it picks up right where Legendborn left off, so you don't have any of those weird gaps where you're like, oh, these things happened that didn't happen on the page. Actually, something I can tell you, I read Legendborn on ebook, so I did that one with my eyeballs, as we like to say here, and I switched to audiobook for the second one, for Bloodmarked, just because that was what was more available readily through the library, and I do tend to get through audiobooks quicker, and I was just really keen on diving back in. But I do a little bit kind of maybe wish that I'd stuck with ebook, because there are so many new characters introduced in the second book, and I did have a little bit of trouble keeping them straight, whereas I felt like I grasped everything really well when I read on the ebook for the first book. So absolutely nothing wrong with the ebook. They're also very good. I just find it a little bit easier to follow complex storylines when I'm reading them with my eyeballs, and I can just go back and do the same part over and over, which I'm a lot less likely to do on audio for whatever reason. I've dug out these lovely little ornate corners stickers. These ones I got from lovely Kimberly in an advent calendar she put together for me last year. I did a little exchange with a friend. It was great. They are stickers, but they're really difficult to separate from their backing paper, so you kind of have to get some tweezers and get in there to separate the 2 layers. Otherwise, things start to tear. They're quite thick, but I like how regal they look. They felt like a good match for something in the book that I can't tell you about. Once again, the timeline is absolutely cooked. Everything happens so fast in this story. I don't actually know how long it's been since we first joined Bree on this journey, but it's probably a lot less time than it feels like after finishing 2 books worth of her journey. There are twists, there are turns. I was shocked. Things happened that I never would have seen coming. I've ended up rating this one 4 out of 5 across the board, which gives us a flat 4 stars for the rating for this one. So only a tiny bit lower, just a fraction lower than Legendborn. And I do plan to read book 3, which is called Oathbound, but I haven't started on it yet. I am having a little break in between this time. Onward to the 4th book that I finished this month. This is the final of the books that we'll be doing review spreads for in this video. This one is by Lex Croucher and it's called Infamous. Right at the end of last year, I read another of Lex Croucher's books. It was Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, and I was obsessed with that book. It was fantastic. I don't feel like Infamous hit quite as hard for me, but I did still really enjoy it. Infamous is a sapphic Regency romance. Our main character, Eddie, is giving Eloise Bridgerton a little bit. She's not really into the societal expectations around her, and she's an aspiring writer. She finds her whole world is suddenly thrown into disarray when she realizes that her best friend Rose, who has been her preferred kissing practice partner for several years, is going to marry a man, because she's like, why can't you just hang out with me instead? Can't we just be spinsters together? If you imagine that it's like if Eloise Bridgerton and Penelope were kind of in love and didn't know, this is sort of the vibe. While she's trying to discourage Rose from getting married, Eddie meets Nash Nicholson at a party. He is a poet that she has been obsessed with for a long time, and she falls into his orbit and becomes part of his inner circle of people who reject societal norms, and all sorts of hijinks ensue. I chose this one very specifically as an audiobook read because I was looking for something to listen to while I sewed my own Regency dress for a Jane Austen ball that I attended last weekend. And I am very proud to announce that my dress went fine, and I did indeed wear it and dance in it all night, and it did not fall apart, and this was the perfect companion for that. I will say I didn't feel like the Regency vibes were super present in this book because so many of the characters are not really representative of what we associate with that time period. They're very progressive, and I think that's awesome for the storyline, but it didn't quite have the I'm going to a Jane Austen ball immersion experience that I was looking for, but I did still really like it. That's on me for not choosing to read actual Jane Austen, I guess. Speaking of things I really like, this gold lace and pink floral PET tape combination I am living for. I think I'm going to need to expand this into a full bullet journal theme at some point because it's making me really happy to look at. And these gold letter stickers for the title and the author's name were just the perfect complement. I'm so happy with how this spread looks. This book was so funny and very whimsical, so if that's something that you're looking for, I definitely recommend it. I think Lex Croucher's writing is fantastic across the board, and I do have another of their books on my maybe next list. It's called Not for the Faint of Heart, so hopefully I'll get to that one pretty soon. I've given Infamous 18.5 out of 25, which gives it a rating of 3.7, so 3.75 rounded up, 3 3/4 stars. Just going to make sure I have that star rating information over here on my August Reads dashboard spread as well. And now we need to talk about a book that I didn't finish this month. I need your opinion on something. It's on the page here, The Stars Are Dying by Chloe C. Peñaranda. I got this with a book box that I'm reviewing, and I want to know your thoughts because I'm not having a great time with this book, but I am reviewing the book box. So do you think I should stick it out and finish the book for the sake of the book box review? Or do you think it's okay for me to DNF? I really want to get your opinion here because you are the ones who benefit from watching the book box reviews and finding out if they're a good fit for you or not, so I want it to be as useful as possible. And that's all I read in August, which means we can get on to my August reading stats, which I got through Storygraph. It's very useful, this little app. You just tell it when you start and finish books and which format you read them in, and at the end of the month it spits out all this data for free. It's so good. So I read 4 books. I completed 4 books in the month of August. I read a total of 705 pages of eyeball books and listened to 46.33 hours of audio. On average, it took me 8 days to finish a book, and my average rating for the month of August was 3.88, so not quite 4 stars, pretty good. The genres I read in were young adult, romance, LGBTQIA+, fantasy, historical, and contemporary. I did not read any non-fiction this month, so I can colour in this pie chart to say that I read 100% fiction because it is the truth. And because I spent so much of the month sewing a Regency dress, 75% of the books I finished were audiobooks, only 25% ebook. And when you only read 4 books, that means 3 audiobooks and 1 ebook. I am a very inexperienced sewist, which meant lots of unpicking and redoing things, and that is why I did not have much time for eyeball reading this month. It just had to be the way it was. I paid for one of the books that I read this month, and the other 3 I read through the library. The one I paid for was Ready or Not. I used an Audible credit to access that one, but the others I got through the library completely. So 75% library and 25% bought books for me this month. And when I was setting this spread up, I had a bit of extra space at the top here, so I added a standout book heading that I haven't really included from one month to the next because I haven't been doing the book bracket thing this year, but I figured let's fill the space. And I don't have a book cover printed for it, but we have already talked about this. It was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, so I'm just adding this purple rectangle. That's where the book cover will go when I print some more, but I only had one to print. I didn't want to do just one book cover, so next time I'm cutting something out with my Cricut, I will make sure to do an extra Legendborn book cover to go here. Let's move on now to my September tracking pages, and I really did enjoy the waterfall tabs so much, and I have plenty of book pages left to use here, so I'm going to cut some paper off the edges of my pages once again. My little slidey paper edge straight cutter guillotine thing broke recently, so I'm going with the largest bladed scissors that I have. Usually I could do this much more swiftly, but this is what I have available to me at the moment. And I'm going to use black, grey and white for the decoration for my September pages. I really like to vary the colours from one month to the next because I have a bookshelf tracker spread way back at the start of this journal, and I need the colours on those book spines to look different from one month to the next, so I like to vary them very much. So because the last month was purple, I thought, what can I do that's not purple? And this is where I landed. If you have never put waterfall tabs in a journal before, I have a video about how to do that, so I'll have that linked down in the description in case you want to check it out. Basically, you remove some paper from the right side of the pages consecutively, moving backwards through the book, so that when they're all pushed to the right, they kind of cascade past each other, and you can see the paper that is underneath the subsequent pages, and they make a nice little pattern. I really like to line my page edges then with washi tape so that they kind of peek through and show the different patterns and textures. So I'm using a black wide washi tape that I got recently from JOURNALSAY, also a grey one that is going to go on the front page to kind of sandwich this floral in between. That floral tape is from Paper Monogatari's Swan Lake collection from winter. I really like the way these colours look together, but I found setting this up visually, kind of playing with it, not going in with much of a plan, really quite tricky. I don't know if I completely love the way this theme came together, but it's literally just 3 spreads. One of them's purely decorative, just the cover page here for September that we're working on right now, and so that's fine. If I don't love them, that's alright, I'll get over it. And this PET tape with lots of detail is from JOURNALSAY. It's very fantasy vibes. It's got lots of lilies and daggers and gothic archways and stuff. It's very, very pretty, but it is not pre-cut, so if you want any smaller elements from it, you have to cut them out by hand yourself, which I didn't want to do, so I'm using it in big strips. I think if it was pre-cut and I could do smaller sections without getting too fiddly and it taking a long time, I would have found it easier to set this up, but as it was, I was just working with pretty limited stuff and trying to make it work, so it is what it is, and that is okay. I don't have a great deal of plain black or plain white or plain black and white or even grey in the rest of my stuff. I did dive back into my stationery collection though and find a few things from Sticky that I could make work. I had a sticker sheet from the Brave pack from a while ago that had some really cool daggers and weapons on it, and I had a lovely little frame that was from the Sticky, I can't remember what the pack was called, the one with all of the really cool Greek gods iconology. That pack had a really lovely sticky note pack, and I used one of those for the center of where I'm going to put my heading, which I've printed. I really didn't have anything else in the collection that I felt would work, so I had to get sort of creative. I tried to make a box in the middle that acted as kind of a grounding spot for me to put the heading for September. It sort of worked, it sort of didn't. It is what it is, we're just gonna let it be. Just in case you're curious, the font I've used for all of my September headers is called Starlight Rune. It's very pretty, it's a little bit celestial, it's going with the fantasy vibes. I printed and cut that with my Cricut, and I made sure to make it a dark kind of charcoaly grey rather than a solid black, so it would really tie in with some of the other elements here. So let's turn the page and set up an actually functional spread. I'm going to flip the order around from the previous, so in August I had the cover spread, and then we had the calendar and books read list. and then we had the stats on the third page of the waterfall tabs. This time I'm going to do the reading stats second and add the calendar and the list of books on the third spread, which just has a little bit more space since I literally cut away less of the paper there to make the waterfall tabs. And I had too much room for my reading stats last month, so I think that's going to work better. I also found these paper frames in my collection, so I'm just using those to frame out a little bit of that detailed PET tape that we used on the cover as a way to have it feature here without having to use a whole chunk of it. I also found another black washi tape in my collection. It's from Cara Crafts and it's a black and silver gilded washi tape, which is really, really beautiful. I have used it quite a bit in a bunch of different places, so I was sort of trying not to use it if I could help it, but it was too good not to. It's a really gorgeous tape, so definitely making sure it gets a little feature across the bottom here. I'd say this every time I use something silver gilded, but my gosh, we need more silver gilding in stationery. I love a gold gilded anything, but silver, because it's rare, is just so much more exciting, and I'm a silver jewelry girly, so this makes me really happy. I'm not totally sure how much space I need for my stats, so I'm going to start laying things down and just see how we go. I'm going to use a grey marker for a second line highlight, very similar to what I did last month, so a space for my books completed. Of course, I've gone through and pre-printed the headings here. I did forget to do a couple of headings. I always forget something when I'm making my stickers, but we're going to jump back in and mix things up with some stamps in a minute, just because I didn't want to print more stickers, did I? It's a bit of a process, so I thought it would be easier to just finish things off with a different lettering style, which I don't recommend as far as consistency and having a theme look really cohesive, but I do recommend from a place of prioritizing your own sanity and not spending a really long time on things. I also like to cut stickers that are circles to be my pie chart, so I don't have to try and draw perfect circles every time. I have a ruler that has circles on it that I've used in the past, but this works really well for me, although I think I'd need to calibrate my Cricut. It's starting to cut a bit wonky at the bottom part of my cutting mat, so you can see there the offset on those is not very good, but it's okay, it's just for me. I always find I need to see the pie charts on the page to understand how much space I have, and I was ending up with a little bit of room left over, so I thought I'd add one more of those frames just to balance out the space and make sure I don't end up with too much room, because I don't think I really need a standout book to feature. I could do that again, of course, to take up the extra space, but it's not really necessary, so I'm going to do some pretty and tie in the theme a little bit more instead. As much as I wasn't super stoked with the cover page, I actually think this reading stats page has turned out really cool. Did I print a heading that says reading stats for September or anything like that? No, I didn't, but that's okay. I know what it is, and you know what it is because I told you and you watched me set it up, so I think we can get away with it this time. That means we've only got one more spread to set up for September to be ready to start tracking reading, and that's an important one actually because it's the calendar and books read page. I really like the look of the tape lining both sides of a spread when I do the waterfall tabs like this, but I also didn't want to take up that much of the left page. It's quite a wide washi tape, this one, and I can't do much over the top of black. Maybe over the grey I could add some things that are still kind of functional, but over the black it's just decorative, so I decided to tear the tape in half. I'd still get a little bit of that visual weight and the balance of the left and right being the same, but not take up quite as much room. I'm going to add my reading progress calendar on the right page, and I'll have book covers on the left. Lately I've been averaging sort of 4 to 5, maybe 6 tops books per month, so I don't think I need a huge amount of space. As much as I just said I didn't want to have that much black on the left side, I am going to put a fairly wide strip of decoration down here because I feel like I need to tie this tape back in. And it does look pretty cool layered over the black. The white sections of this tape really stand out, and I thought, why not? Let's just commit and we'll add it to the outside edge of the waterfall tab so you can see it from the cover spread. I think that looks kind of fun. I made the mistake recently of using one of my Tom Studio pens as a fine liner in place of a Sakura Pigma Micron, which are my usual black fine liners. I really like them because they're waterproof, which means when you go over them with marker colors, they don't smudge around. So I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm using a Pigma Micron to draw out my calendar here. And in case you're curious, the planning space for each of the boxes of the calendar is 4 dot grid spaces wide by 4 dot grid spaces tall. I've also added an extra 1 dot grid space tall above each of those so I'd have a place to put the number for each day of the month. But last month I colored these in. I'm not doing that this month because I felt like it got a little lost with the calendar data. They were a little too similar, especially when I used the same marker color. And we're doing black and white here, so I'm just going to leave them empty this time except for the numbers and be totally okay with that. You can see quite a bit of this floral tape from anywhere else in the setup, but there wasn't any represented across this spread yet, so the way you make a theme look cohesive is to repeat the elements across every spread, so I had to make sure some of it got in here. Again, I didn't think it was going to work in its full capacity. It's quite a wide tape, so I've ripped it down the middle. We're continuing some of that torn edge texture from the black over on the left side and giving it repetition in a different way as well, and it's just going to add some texture at the top and bottom of my spread, and I really like how it came together. It's a very busy tape, so it goes a long way without you needing to really layer anything else with it. I have started a book since the beginning of September, and I have a book cover printed for it, so I thought I'd go ahead and stick it down here. This is what I am currently reading. This book is called Edenbrook. It's by Julianne Donaldson, and it's another Regency romance. I'm reading this one on ebook, and it was highly recommended by Darling Desi in one of her older videos, and I have been looking for spring reads, so that is how it has ended up on my radar. This is the point where I realized I didn't have enough heading stickers for everything I wanted a heading for, and I already had my black ink pad out from stamping my star rating, so I thought let's just go ahead, commit to the black since that is part of the theme, and just stamp the rest of my headings. So reading progress on the right side, September reads on the left side. I would have put a reading stats one on the previous spread, but there wasn't really space and I didn't want to do it on separate sticker paper, so I know what it is, we'll just leave that one without a heading. My September central design here didn't want to stay down, so I'm going in with some trusty clear sticky tape and just taping that over the edges where things keep lifting up, and then I'll be happy with how this is sitting, although it did look kind of cool with a 3D effect, but I didn't want it to peel up. And it ain't over yet. Just when you thought we were finished with everything, there is one more thing I need to update here way back at the beginning of this book. That is my reading tracker. This is the bookshelf tracker I was talking about earlier. So I use purple to represent all of the books I read in August, and I will probably use grey to represent the books that I read in September. I also realized when I turned back here that I had been neglecting my book bingo for quite some time, so I have some updates to make here. I did read a Regency book that was infamous, so I can color in the Regency square on my genre bingo. And it was also a Friends to Lovers book, so I can put that down here in the romance bingo as well. I'm taking a bit of a liberty with the brothers best friends square here on the romance bingo. The book I read, Ready or Not, was actually kind of flipped on that. It was best friend's brother, but I figure that's close enough. I just put a little asterisk on it and I was like, that'll do. It's my bingo and we're past halfway through the year, so I will take liberties where I feel like I can get away with it. I realized a few months ago I read a Victorian set book, so I thought I'd go ahead and color that one in. It was The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love, so that was going back a couple of months now. And there might be a tiny Legendborn / Bloodmarked spoiler here, so please look away if you don't want that. Block your ears, go la la la, don't listen for the next few seconds. I'm giving Enemies to Lovers to Bloodmarked. I'm also going to add one more because I just haven't looked at this in quite some time. I'm going to do the Forced Proximity square to A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. I've got some work to do if I want to finish this by the end of the year, don't I? I have some targeted reading I need to do. Let's have a flip through everything I've done in this video from start to finish, starting from Ready or Not all the way through to the September spreads. Have you read any of the books I've discussed in this video? If so, I'd really like to know what your experience was with them, even if it really differed from mine. I love hearing about other people's experiences of books. I think the discussion is more fun when we have different opinions. Also, please don't forget to let me know what your top read of the month of August was. I always love getting your recommendations, and if I think it's something that sounds like my cup of tea, I will put it on my maybe next list. Stay tuned for my Bewitched Book Challenge announcement video coming really soon in mid-September. I can't wait, and I hope that you will join my little challenge. It's going to be so much fun. I'd love to have you as part of it. May your September reading be whimsical and magical, and may it take you to a world you've never visited before. Just in case you are keen to keep discussing books with me, here is a link to all of my reading journal videos so far this year in a playlist, and underneath that is a link to a video that YouTube's algorithm fairies have chosen just for you.